And hello everyone, welcome back to another NIM tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be taking a look at working with XML files in NIM. In previous tutorials, we took looks at working at .ini files and CSV files, so it's going to be a similar trend for this tutorial. So an XML file is very similar to if you have ever seen it in HTML file. However, with HTML, you have specific blocks that you need to use, such as a body, a head, a p tag. You have specific elements that works with HTML. In XML, there's a similar concept, but there's no specific element you have to use. You could specify, I think, like what sort of XML you're using at the top of an XML file, but in this case, I'm not using it. I'm just using the basic XML, where you can define something like a person. The person has a name, they have a surname, they have an address, and as you can see, they're all getting nested inside of each other with these elements, with an opening one and then a closing one which has a /. So this is the basics of an XML file. It's another way to store data, which you can then use later on. XML is also used in things like designing Android UI, if I'm not mistaken, where you can modify XML files to modify the UI. But that's for a different tutorial, different language, different day. Anyhow, so here we can learn how to work with this. So let's get started by importing std/xml tree. Now we can use XML tree to generate XML. So we won't be writing or reading just yet, we'll be generating this. This is a good visual to show you how this XML will look, or how it is supposed to look, where you have a person and that contains all of the details of the person. You have an address that contains all of the details of the address. So let's go var name element is equal to new element full name. Now what this will do is it will do this. It will create these two tags here. So if I were to just do this, I can copy that, and all this will do is it will create that. So now we have a new element called full element. And in here we can say name element dot add new text Jack Smith. Now what this will do is it will add Jack Smith to this element. So what will we get if we echo out name element? We'll get this full name Jack Smith and then full name. So it's what we expected. You can also go name element dot add, just a new comment. And the reason I'm doing this is because it might look neater for you to instead do this. It might bring back some memories of older programming languages that did something similar. And you might prefer this. I would just like to show you that you can do this if this is what you'd prefer to do instead of brackets. However, I will for the most part still always use similar syntax because I don't want you to get confused too often. So I'm just making a point of showing you that you can do this if you want. This is the user's full name. Now if we were to run and display this, you'll notice we get a comment. So this right here, if we go here, basically did this. Oh, this, there we go. Anyhow, so it basically did this. This right here is a comment, meaning it doesn't really display in the data. It is ignored when this data is being parsed. So this here wouldn't be read normally if data is parsed. And we can check that by going name element dot inner text. Now if we were to run this, we'll get Jack Smith without this comment here because that is a comment and wouldn't be read once parsed. We can of course create more elements. So here, let's go var email element is equal to new element email. Then email element dot add new text jack@gmail.com. And we can of course echo out email element dot inner text if we wanted to, and then get the result. Then finally, let's add one more, and we can remove these echoes for now. So then var address email element is equal to new element address. Now we want to add something similar to this. So to do that, we can say address element dot add new element street, and then postal code and country. They won't really contain any details, it's just so we can add elements to this, and then we can actually also echo out the length of address email. So you'll get 3 because this right here has 3 elements inside of it. If we were to do the same with email element, we would get 1 because it only has one thing inside of it. It would have this inside of it, or the actual email, but it will have one word inside of it. Whilst this has 3 items inside of it. And that's why we got 3 when we got the length of address element. Now one could of course go address element dot delete and let's say 2. When we do this, it will delete item at index 2. So 0, 1, 2. So it will delete country. If we then were to echo out address element, we'd see we don't get a country because we deleted it. If we didn't delete it, we would get the country. Now the reason these are closing like this is because they don't contain any data, so they are self-closing tags. So don't worry that they are doing this, just note it's because they don't contain any data. Now what if you wanted to make this, a tree of XML and not just have individual elements? In that case, you can go variable my_xml is equal to new XML tree, and we can say user data. So that would be this right here, that's user data. Then we can specify what we want to put inside of it. So we can say name, element, email, element, and address, email, element. I don't know why I want to say address, email the whole time. And that is an array. So then you will have this. Then you can go echo $my_XML. So the reason we're using dollar again is to convert it to a string. It's pretty much optional. But, and as you can see, we do get similar to this. But as dollar is optional, if you remove it, then you'll not get a string, but you will still see the same result. So that's just to convert it to a string as always. So dollar always converts to a string. Alright, now you can also, to this, add things like this right here. And these are extra attributes you might want to add to your XML. And that should of course not be an L, that should be a colon. There we go. So then by adding this, you can add extra attributes to this XML tree. So if we were to run this, and let's copy and just paste it here so we know what we're looking at. You'll notice we added these attributes to this XML here. So now it has the class of user data holder and secure of no. So here secure no and class user data holder. These don't really matter that much. It's more for the developer. So you could add a class if you maybe want to add some CSS if you're trying to display this in a web page, because somehow that's possible. Pretty interesting. And secure no, that's again something just for the developer. You can maybe put it in there to maybe notify the next user who views the data that this data is not secure. Cool. Now I also have some couple other things you might want to learn, such as echo XML header. Now this here will give you a generally used XML header. So if we were to look at this header, we could actually copy that and put it here. Because oftentimes this is the XML header that you'll see on the top of your XML. This is to specify things like the version, encoding, and other details that might need to be known for the parser later on. We can also go my XML and say, let's say index 0. This will get the first item, which is a full name. Because if we were to remove this, we'll get this, and then you'll notice the first item is full name inside of this. You can also get dot attribute or attrs length, and this will return the amount of attributes in your XML node. And yeah, we'll have 2 because there is version and encoding. These 2 are version encoding. My bad, I'm looking at the wrong one here. There is, if we were to just print this out again, run this, you'll notice we have secure and class. So class and secure. These are the two attributes that are being counted here. There are 2 of them. You can also go .child address. And this right here will get the address element and all its children. So it will just return the address. You can also go .find all, and let's say email as an example. And this will find all of the elements that are email and return them in a sequence so you can access all of them. So if you have a really big XML file with multiple users who then have multiple emails and whatnot, you can do this to get all of the emails inside of that XML. You can also do clear, and this will clear in XML node and all its children. So if we go echo my XML, and this of course should not be echoed, then we'll get this user data of the classes. However, it has no more children because everything else has been cleared. Cool. You can also insert, so my XML, an element into a specific index. For example, new element, age, and let's say at index 1. So it will currently be 0 and then index 1. So where the email element is, it will be inserted. So if we echo this, echo my XML, my bad, I open my code editor. So then here where email would have been, it's now age, and email has been moved downwards. You can also get the name of an element by going .tag. So then if we were to run this, you'll get user data. But if you go child full name .tag, you'll get the full name child element. Alright, enough of that. Let's import our XML parser. So import std, actually we can just put it here, XML parser, and then we can just say let XML is equal to load XML, and you can just say index.xml. So that's this file right here. So now we're loading it into this right here. We can then echo out XML. Bob's your uncle. Everything that's in here will now be put here. Note we don't get this here. That's because it's just general header information about the XML. So it isn't really important for us to know that. It's mostly important just for the parser. So it's ignored. Similarly, you can also do parse XML. And then instead of parse XML, you can do this and Control A, C, V, and there we go. So now we can parse this and then echo out XML. Now if we run this, you'll notice it is also parsed. And that's the basics of working with XML files. Simple as just parsing the file and then working with all the content inside of it. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all again in the next NIM tutorial.